offices and were caught at it.
Their entire top leadership was investigated, indicted.
People.
Good evening.
And the first question always asked by a prosecutor was,
and
will they harass me? Will they
I
follow
thought I
me?
had this under control.
2 years ago, when Mike Roberto became the new city manager, the investigation stopped abruptly. Roberto forged a new alliance between Scientology and the city.
No matter what they had done in the past,
Julia,
the one city, one future took precedence over everything.
Welcome.
No matter what.
Shortly after the Lisa McPherson Trust opened its doors
let me
in
know
January,
if you can hear me, because
Bob Minton and I had a meeting with Mike Roberto, the city manager. And we explained to him that we're in town to educate the city of Clearwater about some of the abusive and deceptive practices of Scientology.
You hear another voice. Oh,
Mike Roberto's reply to us was that he had just spent 2 years getting
sooner than it should have. Okay. Thank you for letting me know that. All right. So, can you hear me now? All right. But that other voice stopped, right? Okay, good. All right, here we go. You know, I thought, well, I got everything lined up here. I've got a couple pictures I wanted to show you. And then I realized, oh, they have to be PDFs. So I converted those, came back here. They're not the right side up. Yeah, so that slowed everything down. But making progress still. I have not been out here talking to you in... Is Stacy still talking? No, she's not talking now. She's on pause. So I've been busy. I have been doing lots of exciting things. Thank you, Craig. I am a beautiful old wise man. That's true. And a national treasure. Let's not forget that. So I have built a second workstation in my house. And if I could, I would push a button right now to show you. Okay, here in the living room, I've set up a whole new big desk with all of my DV editing equipment. All my digital tapes are being captured on this DV cam deck. So I've got those going into a laptop. I'm on a separate laptop. They're side by side here. And then over against the wall, what used to be my kitchen table is now the VHS station. So I've got 2 VCRs. One of them I had to buy new. I had to buy used, and it wasn't easy to find. I had to get a new multi-system VCR so I could play videos from other parts of the world. I have some PAL videos, and my old multi-system player died. So there's another $300 for you. And I got this cool little capture device too that I was wary about, but I'm sure glad I bought it. It's something like the ClickView, or I'll have to check that out for you. But it's a little box with a screen on it, and you plug in your audio and video components. I have a SVHS plug into it, and it captures all the video for you onto a thumb drive, and it's working beautifully. I thought, well, this is going to be, I don't know, but I got to get it onto tape somehow. It's working remarkably well. So I have been capturing, even though I haven't been putting up anything lately, I have been capturing like a madman. So I've got all sorts of stuff from the early days of my entrance onto the internet. And I have newscasts. I've got broadcasts from around the world. All these things I've started to capture. So far, I've gone through one full box and I've started on a second box. And I got a lot of really fascinating material for you. And I can't wait to show you the video of Heber Jensch going nuts on CBS with Bryant Gumbel. Oh, he did this wonderful live shot. The only way that he would agree to be interviewed for the CBS news show, just like 60 Minutes, was he had to go live. So once they went live, he just went nuts and was doing tone 40 on Bryant Gumbel. You listen to me. It's breathtaking. So I've got a bunch of stuff from the golden age of Heber Jensch. He was my favorite of the Scientology spokespeople because he was not afraid to go overboard and throw out the Nazi word as constantly as possible. So what I want to do tonight, besides saying hello to all of you folks, Daniela, thank you. Carpe Imodium, is that how it's pronounced? Oh, look at all these people who have popped up here while I was chatting away. The Elk of Antioch. That's interesting. Hail Lord Xenu and hail Princess Xena. Okay, I'm with you. Artax, good evening to you. Artax, the stupid horse. Gypsy Lisa. You know, I the only other Lisa I know is the woman who used to host Entertainment Tonight, Lisa Gibbons. And I actually met her because when I was doing a show at Disneyland, we did a live stage version of Mickey's Nutcracker, where I was Mr. Narrator, beloved Disney character, Mr. Narrator. And they decided they'd bring her in for one day to play the part of the narrator. So I had a chance to talk to her and kind of walk her through, okay, here's where you sit. Here's the tunnel underneath the stage. You have to hurry down to get into your entrance to have your scene with Mickey and Minnie. But I always liked Lisa Gibbons, even before meeting her. Yes, I do have. Can you hear Stacy? Oh, that's an old comment. I apologize. Janet, I think you have a video playing of Stacy. Yeah, this is the video that I'm going to be playing. I'm going to have to reboot it. This is the Scientology and the Clearwater Police video. Let me check who else is around here. Oh, we got Good SP. Good. How's that pronounced? Martha. Good to see you. Mena, welcome. Sneak a spot. Thanks for joining us. Bach buddy. All right. Okay. So we're making progress. So tonight I wanted to play the Clearwater Police video, now in 4K, and give it a little background to it, because I'm astonished by the people who watched this video that I made in 2000, who think that this is still the situation with the Clearwater Police, and it's not. And what happened at this point of time? We opened up the LMT, the Lisa McPherson Trust, right at the beginning of January 2000. And we came to town with high hopes to be able to help people as they were being defrauded or wanted to leave Scientology. What we wound up doing was spending a lot of time in court with Scientology. And I kind of expected that. Bob Minton had set aside several $1 million that should have kept the LMT running for 10 years. And his hope was, as he was funding the Lisa McPherson civil suit which was happening at the time. Some of Lisa's relatives, her aunt Del Liebrick was the main person involved in this lawsuit. At the same time, the state was criminally charging Scientology for Lisa McPherson's death. Lisa's family had this civil suit, and Bob was paying for the attorney for that and paying all of that. And the idea was the family had agreed that some of the proceeds that they'd receive if this suit was won would go toward funding a group like the Lisa McPherson Trust, a group helping people victimized by Scientology. That was the plan. And, if everything had gone properly, we would have been able to get that case through the courts and have it funded before Bob's money ran out. But we weren't counting on Scientology taking us to court constantly. And so Bob wound up spending a lot of money just fighting off all of these things. Now, let me give you an example. In the first, I think it's like the first couple of weeks of January, once we just opened, we had I forget which came first, but there was a German film crew that came to town, and they wanted to interview a Scientologist artist. And he was not admitting that he was a Scientologist, but these filmmakers came to knock on his door and try to get an interview with him. And they asked me to go along and have my camera rolling just in case there's any trouble. And boy, was there. So the artist, Gottfried Hellwine, I think was his name, he was not there, or at least did not answer the door. But the person who answered was somebody who was supposedly working there as a handyman, working on some project. You'll see this here in the video. So he came running out of the house and attacked me with a hammer, hit my camera a couple of times with a hammer. And the police refused to even look at the videotape of this incident. I won't go into any more of it right now because we'll come to that in the video. But the reason I brought it up is a week after that, I believe it was after, I flew up to Chicago because we heard from two dentists who had been defrauded out of $20,000 that they paid for courses in advance. And they had been trying to get that money back for 2 years. And they were having no luck at all. So they called the Lisa McPherson Trust, and we agreed that I would fly up there to interview them. And once we got off the phone with that, and we set up a flight right away to come up there, and we immediately got we immediately got let's see, let me take that and get rid of that. I didn't notice I had the comment up there all this time. So we talked to the dentist. We book a flight for me to go up to Chicago. The dentist called back immediately and say, they have to have your phones bugged because as soon as you booked a flight, this woman from the Chicago org was in their dentist office. They were two married dentists who got sucked in through one of these Hubbard management courses. She had shown up in their lobby with a check. And we said, okay, let's go through with this anyway, because we want to get your story. And it was a fascinating trip. And I managed to get a nice interview with both the husband and wife. And it's a 2-hour video that I'll be putting up at some point. But while we were there, I went down to the Chicago org to shoot a little video of them as they were going in to discuss getting their money back. And this was a meeting that they had arranged before I'd even gotten to town. And excuse me for, I just want to make sure that everybody's still here with me, because I'm not seeing new comments coming in. I could just be that fascinating that I have you mesmerized by this. But they were going. They had a meeting to sit down in the org and try to get their money back from them. And when we arrived there we go. When we arrived there, I put up my camera to my shoulder. I had a big camera, and I asked the two dentists, "So tell me what's going on here." And before they could answer, these two guys in black leather jackets came running out of the org, ran between the dentist and grabbed me by either arm and had me arrested for trespassing on a public sidewalk. And it turned out that those were off-duty police officers that Scientology had hired because I was in town. And this cost Bob, I think, $60,000, because we could have just settled. It was a little misdemeanor, essentially. Thank you, Clearwater Chad. I appreciate that super sticker. I've got tons of. I spent about $1,000 on all this equipment to get this all going. So I appreciate your help here, and anything you can do for me, I appreciate. There we go. Just wanted to take that off the screen, but I appreciate that, Chad. So these were two off-duty police officers in Chicago, and we got them subpoenaed, and they had to come and testify at the trial. And this was a trial in a courtroom in Chicago that had never had a trial before. I mean, it was pretty remarkable, because normally it was just a steady stream of people who would come in. Thank you, Sandy. I appreciate that. They would come in, and one after another, they say guilty or not guilty, pay a little fine. It would have been like a $60 fine, I think, if I had paid that. But what we wanted to do is make sure that they couldn't say that I was a criminal. So Bob funded a lawsuit, and I actually had to go back like a year later and stand trial. And it was an interesting experience. The whole thing was a fascinating experience. So we hired this top attorney in Chicago. This guy was on the front page of the paper because he was doing some major murder trial at that point. And we put him on a retainer for $5,000, and we just could not talk to him. We wanted to explain. I went in and saw him briefly to sign the contract with him. But then every time we tried to call him on the phone and explain how Scientology deals with things, he would not take the time to talk to us. And he appeared at my arraignment. And when we walked into the courtroom, one of the bailiffs came up to me and said, "You've got the best attorney in town." And we needed him, as Also there was one of Scientology's top attorneys, Earl. Well, I can't think of his name right now. I wasn't planning to talk about any of this stuff. But this is a guy that was on TV quite a bit at that point during the Lisa McPherson case. And he had been an attorney for the Gambino family. So, you know, Scientology hires only the best. When we arrived there, I saw this guy come in, and he and the district attorney went into the back room, and we had to wait like 45 minutes as they were discussing things. And then finally we got in front of the judge for the arraignment, and it's like guilty or not guilty. That's, you know, all I had to say, not guilty. But before we had a chance to say that, the attorney for the state was saying, Your Honor, we're adding some charges to this: resisting arrest, battery against a police officer, and because there's a religion involved, we're treating this as a hate crime. And my attorney, who would not listen to us talking about how Scientology behaves, turned to me and said, wow, they're playing hardball. Yes, that's what we've been trying to tell you. And even after that, we couldn't really pin him down to discuss the case. And we had to hire a different attorney. We thanked him for his service, and we hired another woman up there to be our main counsel, and we took up Dennis DeFlaming, a Clearwater attorney who is terrific. You'll see Dennis on a lot of videos as we go along. Dennis has represented me. So he handled all the Scientology stuff at the Chicago trial. And he defended Bob here in Clearwater. And he's a top attorney, really, really great guy. So we had the trial a year after the event, and the jury found me not guilty in like 30 minutes, which was sensible because I was not guilty. I didn't do anything, and the jury knew this was Scientology, and right there, if you know, you got Scientology on the other side, juries kind of know there's something wacky here to begin with. So these officers in Chicago, at least one of them, I would say, was corrupt. I don't say that about the Clearwater police. The police you're going to be seeing in the video tonight, they were compromised because the chief of police here in Clearwater said, okay, let's put two of you sitting out there in a chair making money from Scientology every day. So they get influenced. But it's not like in Chicago where after I was arrested, I had the entire incident where they were grabbing me and arresting me on tape on my big camera. And they forced me to set it down, and they were like prying my thumb back so I would drop it on the ground. And one of the dentists, I saw him there as the police were cuffing me, and I was kind of eyeing to him, pick up the camera, you know, point it at me. So he did. So we had that on tape. And as I'm being arrested in Chicago, like 5 squad cars come up, lights blaring, and the one of the officers on the scene, who was the black leather clad guy, one of the guys who arrested me, said to another officer, saying, "Call it off. This is too much." So clearly they saw that this was making a scene, and this was kind of a busy business type of district. At any rate, it was a fascinating experience, but I had to go to jail. I got booked. They put me in a slammer for like 3 hours, and I enjoyed the experience. it was very fascinating. And I got a really nice mugshot out of it too. I was dressed up in a nice sport coat and like one of the best pictures of me ever. So I have to thank them for that. At any rate, while I was locked up, I had to go back the next morning to get my camera back from the lockup. And when I got it back, the police there had stolen the video from the camera. So you know, I never saw anything like that happen in Clearwater. And that's the type of thing that I find troubling. And you know, I'm a choir boy. I'm a kid from Wisconsin. Look at me. I'm just a innocent little kid, a rube. And I find myself handcuffed, slapped in the back of a patrol car, taken in, booked, fingerprinted, mugshot taken, and then the door gets slammed on me. I was sitting there actually laughing in the jail cell. And you know, to entertain myself, I was singing, you know, the songs you'd always see in old movies. Nobody knows the trouble I've seen, all that kind of stuff. That wore off after 3 hours. I was kind of bored by then. So I was happy that I was able to just pay a little bail that I had on me and get out of there and fly back home. But once I got back home, and it was like a couple of days later, because after I was released, I actually sat down and had to do the interview again with the dentists, because everything that we had shot was stolen. So it took me a couple of days to get back to Clearwater. And when I got back into town, Scientology had gone all around the neighborhood showing my mugshot to everybody, saying, watch out for this guy. This guy's dangerous. He was arrested in Chicago. You know, and that's what Scientology wants. If you don't have a crime, they need to create a crime. They need to manufacture something. And it was actually pretty stunning to see all these businesses tell me, oh yeah, they were in here. We saw your mugshot. Yeah. Any rate, things like that, you know, Bob went through his money pretty quickly. And the officers in Clearwater, Sid Klein was the chief of police back in 2000 when I came to town. And he had many encounters with Scientology. There was one protest where they're marching around protesting him, saying, Sid Klein, what's your crimes? So I knew what the Clearwater police had been putting up with for 25 years at that point, with Scientology sneaking into town. And I knew Ray Emmons, the police lieutenant, had been investigating them. And one of the Clearwater detectives had written up an affidavit for some case where Scientology was trying to sue the police department to reveal the names of their undercover officers. And the police had to write an affidavit for the court saying, we don't make us do this because of the fair game policy, in which they went through everything. You know, all of the, you know, all the fair game, all the attacks on people. So the Clearwater police knew how Scientology behaved. And yet, when it came to us, they treated us at the Lisa McPherson Trust like the enemy. And I got to tell you, I was stunned. One of the first things that we did was attend a Martin Luther King Jr. Day breakfast. And at the breakfast, there was Chief Klein with some of his officers. And I hadn't met him yet, but I went over to shake his hand and say, Chief Klein, I'm a big fan of the Clearwater Police, and I appreciate what you've what you've been doing? And he refused to shake my hand. And he just looked at me, glared at me, and said, if you get in my way, I'll have you arrested. And I went, okay, this is not what I was expecting when I showed up in Clearwater. I knew we'd have to, fight Scientology, but it's amazing how we had to fight the city government. Because not only was Chief Klein pissed off that we were there, but the city manager at that time was this guy who was a city manager in Miami, I think, before he took the job in Clearwater. And his main goal was to keep Scientology off the front page of the newspaper. Well, Stacy will mention that in this video. But they seriously considered us being the problem. And that was frustrating. And Chief Klein decided, we'll just have these officers sit down there on Watterson Street. They can sit there all day long and get a paycheck from Scientology. And in doing that, the officers were influenced, not corrupted. I don't think anything that you're going to see here rises to any serious violations. It's just shows, the video shows that it's so easy for Scientology to find a way to influence you to do what they want to do. And money is one nice way. I'm not saying anyone was bribed. They didn't have to bribe anything. It was all on the up and up. I mean, they had to pay taxes on the money they earned. So at any rate, we had so many situations right away that were troubling that I sat down and made this video that we're going to watch tonight. And before I even put this online, the police department had a copy of it. And I think it's because I interviewed Lieutenant Ray Emmons, the detective in charge of investigating Scientology for 20 years. I interview him in this video, and I showed him a copy of it. I gave him a copy of it before we put it online. And I think he shared it with the police department. And we found out that the Chief Klein had all the police officers sit down and watch this in an assembly. And I got to tell you, I would bump into officers then, like going out to dinner. There'd be a couple officers there, and you're that guy who made that video. It was an incredibly odd feeling to be a choir boy who's never been in trouble with the law before, to suddenly have every police officer in town know you and be unhappy with you. So that was a novel little part of living here in Clearwater that I did not expect. So the police weren't happy about this video. They haven't been happy about it for a couple of decades. And I got to say, though, that the situation that was going on at the time we made this video, where officers were getting paid every day to babysit with, one of Scientology security guards, normally Antonio, I think you'll see in the video. These officers lost that opportunity to make extra cash when the LMT closed at the end of 2001. And with us out of town, there was no reason for these officers to be getting a nice extra paycheck from Scientology after that. And in the years since, Scientology hires the police occasionally to do crowd control if they're having like, an L. Ron Hubbard birthday event. They can hire the police to do traffic control the same as any other organization in town can. And I don't I don't see any problem with that. But I still see, even when I put this back online in 4K now, I saw comments in the video saying, "I can't believe this is happening in Clearwater." And it happened in Clearwater. It's not happening now, which is the main point I was trying to get across by sitting here and watching this with you tonight. It's city council. I have not been reading all these comments, but Julia says the city council is now corrupted by Scientology. It's awful. I don't think they're corrupted by Scientology. There's no one now who's willing to speak out against them. But there's no one that's been on the payroll. Nobody in City Hall is happy about what Scientology has done to the city. Everybody knows that the problem downtown is the presence of Scientology. Everybody knows that. And the fact that now they've purchased up all the properties and are leaving them empty, that's a huge problem for the city. Huge. But, you know, I got to know all the people in City Hall. I got to know the current chief of police and the one who was on duty when I moved back here in 2013, Chief Dan Slaughter. Chief Slaughter was always a decent, fair guy with me. I've never had problems with the police since coming back. Scientology would call the police on me, you know, trying to say I broke the injunction, which is nonsense. And the police essentially said, we're not paying any attention to the injunction. You know, Scientology, if you want to take them to court, take them to court. But we're not responding and having them arrested or write up reports anymore. This is nonsense. And Sid Klein was chief of police at the time of this video. Chief Dan Slaughter is one of the officers listed at the end of this video as working off duty for Scientology. I like Dan. I got to know him. There were things that he would do for me when we'd have questions about, you know, Miscavige not paying attention to COVID, not taking this seriously. So, you know, I had him go and check out the orgs and check out Hacienda Gardens, the conditions out there to make sure everybody was safe. You know, unfortunately, I was not allowed to go along. But I don't think that would be the case in any city. They don't need a city councilman coming along with the police department on some official duty. So yeah, Robert, I agree with the optics of Scientology owning the building that houses City Hall is a problem. It's a major problem. And that's why I'm extra glad that we approved building a new City Hall. And I don't think the new council is going to shut that down, as they are going to shut down other things that we had in progress. And I think now more than ever, they're happy that there's going to be a City Hall by the end of this year that the city can move into that won't be under the thumb of Scientology. And Scientology will not be able to buy this building and control it the way they are currently with the tower that the city has been renting space in. So, yeah, that is a huge problem. There we go. I tell you what, I've been blabbing quite a bit. Do you want to Do you want to start watching the video now, or do you have some other questions that maybe I've missed as I've been blabbing away here? I'm just rolling back here a little bit. Okay. Tell you what, let's start watching the video, and I'll chime in from time to time. What I have to do here, because at the beginning it started playing accidentally, so you're going to see Stacy on the screen as I bring her up here.
Get it out of my face.
Excuse me.
Get the fuck
Okay, it's out of your face.
Get out of my face and stop.
Back to the beginning. And we've got about 10 seconds here before the video itself starts. And I hope you enjoy this.
We're in downtown Clearwater, Florida, in the very heart of what the Scientology organization considers their spiritual headquarters. 25 years ago, Scientology came to Clearwater under the pseudonym United Churches. L. Ron Hubbard set into motion a plan called Project Normandy, a covert operation designed for the complete takeover of Clearwater.
It said move into Clearwater, find out who your friends are, develop them, find out who your enemies are, destroy them, and infiltrate every organization you can.
This is a criminal organization. They don't really care about individuals other than themselves.
Scientology.
So one of the things that I appreciated most about coming to Clearwater was getting to know Gabe Casares, who was the mayor when Scientology snuck into town in '75. And they did so many nasty, horrible things to him that we can talk about it at another point. And Ray Emmons was terrific. He gave us a tour of Clearwater. I have that video ready to post, and he gave us a lot of background on Scientology and that. Let's get back here.
These covert operations were run by the Guardian's Office, a branch of Scientology which has since been renamed the Office of Special Affairs.
FBI agents had enough evidence on the Scientologists to raid their headquarters in Los Angeles and Hollywood. They took 43,000 documents. Many of them were actually stolen from top government agencies in Washington, D.C. and elsewhere.
They infiltrated government offices and were caught at it.
Their entire top leadership was investigated, indicted, tried, and convicted, and sent to the pokey. They went to jail for this.
For over 20 years, the Clearwater Police Department actively investigated Scientology. For much of that time, the investigation was led by Ray Emmons.
We knew that there were predicate crimes. We knew that it was a continuing fraudulent enterprise. Still is to this day, as far as I'm concerned, and that's my opinion. But we shopped it around to the federal people, to the state people. And the first question always asked by a prosecutor was, will they harass me? Will they follow me?
2 years ago, when Mike Roberto became the new city manager, the investigation stopped abruptly. Roberto forged a new alliance between Scientology and the city.
No matter what they had done in the past, the one city, one future took precedence over everything, no matter what.
Shortly after the Lisa McPherson Trust opened its doors in January, Bob Minton and I had a meeting with Mike Roberto, the city manager. And we explained to him that we're in town to educate the city of Clearwater about some of the abusive and deceptive practices of Scientology. Mike Roberto's reply to us was that he had just spent 2 years getting Scientology off the front page of the newspaper, and he was not about to let us get Scientology back on the front page again. And he told us in no uncertain terms that if we caused any trouble for him or for his plans for Clearwater, he was going to get us out of town.
Roberto's embracing of Scientology brought about many changes. The police department stopped all active investigation of Scientology, and they stopped the training program that taught new recruits what Scientology is and does. Indeed, today, many in the Clearwater Police Department work for Scientology on their days off. They're out here on Watterson Street guarding these white lines. Watterson Street is a small side street shared by both Scientology and the Lisa McPherson Trust.
The white lines were burned on Watterson Street a week after the trust opened, and just hours after this lengthy meeting between officials from the city, the Clearwater Police Department, and
Oops, sorry. That was Chief Sid Klein right there glaring at us. Let me bring him back up
Office of
here.
Special Affairs.
And Ben Shaw. Love Ben
You can
Shaw.
see Mike Roberto in the white shirt walking off to the
That
right.
is the city manager.
That night, Scientology hired the first pair of off-duty police officers, but the rules change daily.
I just want a clear, firm response from the police department on what the rules are here.
In bending over backwards to appease Scientology, Roberto and the police department created new laws on the spot that even its own officers couldn't understand.
So I can't go across the line now? No?
Laws that couldn't be explained even to the local news.
I might innocently be walking down the street and there's a van parked there that has nothing to do with my life.
Right.
And you would arrest me.
You'd have to go down there and find out, to be honest with you.
4 patrolmen and a sergeant refused to answer that simple question, preferring headquarters handle the matter.
Even worse than the confusion over how to manage the white lines is the byproduct of the creation of this rather unique bus unloading zone. You see, now a large percentage of the Clearwater Police Force work directly for Scientology, and they're supposed to report to Mike Rinder, the head of the Office of Special Affairs. Again, this is the new name for the Scientology department that once broke into the FBI and the IRS, stole documents, bugged offices, and that to this very day continues to destroy the lives of those people who Scientology perceives to be the enemy. Today, Scientology perceives its #1 enemy to be the Lisa McPherson Trust.
We get calls every day from people who have been harmed by Scientology. Calls from people all over the country. People whose families have been destroyed by Scientology, women who've lost their husbands, husbands who've lost their wives, parents who've lost their children. And the only place they have to go for help anywhere in the United States is the Lisa McPherson Trust.
We of the Trust every day come down Watterson Street and see the Clearwater police officers sitting and laughing and having a great time with OSA agents. The Clearwater police watch as the OSA agents videotape our every move. When we walk in or out of our building, the OSA agent grabs his walkie-talkie and reports on our whereabouts. Scientology PIs follow us everywhere. When a visitor comes to the Lisa McPherson Trust, the police watch as the OSA agent grabs his camera and videotapes their license plate. Those plates are run, and then our visitors are later harassed. The Clearwater Police Department doesn't seem to have a problem with this. We do.
The police officers that are sitting down there are being indoctrinated by the Scientology security officers that are sitting with them all day long.
Do we not know that this cult brainwashes people? Do we not know that these officers every day are being induced and told that the people in the Lisa McPherson Trust are enemies and criminals and we're the good guys to impressionable young officers?
And these security officers are telling them what criminals we all are, how dangerous we all are, what terrible religious bigots we are, all kinds of lies about all of us.
I want to show you some videotape shot by myself and others over the course of the past 9 months. We believe these videotapes show a clear pattern of bias against the Lisa McPherson Trust on the part of the Clearwater Police Department. This first piece of footage was shot on February 1st of the year 2000. 2 German filmmakers had asked me to come along as they shot a documentary about a famous German Scientologist artist who now lives in Clearwater. The day before, the German filmmakers had gone to the police department and asked if it was legal for them to knock on the door and ask for an interview. Wayne Shallor, the police spokesperson, assured them it was. As we headed back to our cars, a man ran out of the house with a hammer.
See that camera? What if I smash that fucker for you? Oh, smash it. You better go. I called the cops. Get the fuck out of here.
Is this?
Get the fuck out of here.
You're on the public.
Yeah, well, guess what? I'm on the public property too. You wanna start some shit with me?
Hey.
How do you like that?
The man's name was Richard Barnard, and he claimed to be an electrician doing some work inside the house. Barnard struck the camera twice with a hammer and once with a screwdriver. But even more unsettling than the attack from Barnard was the reaction of the Clearwater Police Department.
Police is coming.
The first to arrive on the scene was Officer Terrence Kelly. According to recently released documents, Kelly is one of the police officers who works for Scientology on his days off.
Why? My English not so good. That's okay. Why? Can you explain?
Yes, these are German documentary filmmakers who are here shooting a film about Scientology. They've had several documentaries that have been produced already. They're trying to get an interview with the person in this house here. These two gentlemen, and I came along just to videotape to make sure that nothing happened.
Good afternoon.
Excuse me?
You've been up on...
Yeah, I work for the Lisa McPherson Trust. These fellas came into town and just asked me to come along as backup.
Have everybody's ID.
Okay.
Oh, he attacked us. He wanted to make a report. What's that? He attacked us with a hammer. He made like this.
Yeah, he did. He hit the camera.
Let me see everybody's ID. Driver's license, ID card. What do you get?
There you go.
Thank you.
Now, in a moment, I'm going to turn off the video camera after Officer Kelly expresses some concern about it continuing to run. In fact, Officer Kelly was more concerned about my video camera than he was about the hammer attack. After I turned off the camera, Officer Kelly told me it's a felony to record people's voices without their permission. In fact, he threatened to arrest me for the footage you just saw.
You still videotaping that?
I told Kelly once again that a man attacked us with a hammer and that I had the whole incident on videotape and I could roll it back and show it to him.
Oh, smash it. You better go. I called the cops.
His response to me was a question. Did you inform that gentleman with the hammer that you were recording audio? If not, that's a felony.
Yeah, well, guess what? I'm on the public property too. You wanna start some shit with me?
The next officer on the scene was Officer Holzenbach, who also refused to look at the videotape. Holzenbach is one of the regulars working the white lines on Watterson Street. Scientology pays the officers $21 an hour for a total of $178 per day. Holzenbach's total pay for the first 8 months of the year 2000 was $2,848. It wasn't until a sergeant arrived on the scene that anyone took a look at this videotape. The sergeant ordered Officer Kelly to do an investigation, yet Officer Kelly refused to even ask this man for an ID. If he had, he would have discovered that on this day, Richard Barnard gave the police a phony name, a phony birth date, and a phony social security number. It was only later discovered that Richard Barnard had skipped bail on a cocaine trafficking charge. He is now serving a 1-year prison sentence in Key West.
One of the issues that's come up in Clearwater has to do with peacefully protesting. There are people who want to protest Scientology's abuse and deception by picketing.
Scientology reacts very aggressively toward any form of criticism. L. Ron Hubbard's policy was always attack, never defend. In 1967, L. Ron Hubbard wrote that anyone who criticizes Scientology is a criminal.
What are your crimes against not only Scientology, but what are your crimes against humanity? I'd like to know.
Hubbard declared any enemy an SP, or suppressive person. In his fair game policy, Hubbard wrote that an SP may be deprived of property or injured by any means by any Scientologist, may be tricked, sued, or lied to, or destroyed.
I don't think before in the history of this country has an organization struck back at critics in a fashion Scientology has. How do you cope with someone trying to see that you get fired or ruin your credit or follow you day and night or kill your animals?
This is Scientology's enemies list. 47 pages and thousands of names of organizations and individuals that Scientology has labeled as enemies. Right near the top of this list, Scientology certainly has placed the chairman of the board of the Lisa McPherson Trust, Bob Minton. One night in July, the Clearwater police watched as dozens of Scientologists surrounded Bob Minton and tried to provoke an incident.
I never saw such outrageous conduct in my life. They called Mr. Minton virtually every name that could possibly be conceived. They got in his face, impeded him, and the police stood there and watched and did nothing.
The police have just stood by while these protesters have been assaulted by Scientologists. The police have been absolutely unwilling to do anything to protect the protesters.
Scientologists are trying to provoke an incident. Here, a shoving match is caught on camera. The Scientologist in the plaid shirt has to be restrained by Scientology security personnel. This footage was shot by Jeff Jacobson, who works for the Lisa McPherson Trust. I came onto the scene shortly afterwards and caught this on tape. Another Scientologist gives some advice. Let them go to you.
Let them do it to you.
If we respond in anger and lash back, the Scientologist hope will get arrested. That way, they can prove that L. Ron Hubbard was right when he said that anyone who criticizes Scientology is a criminal.
You're standing on the road, buddy.
Let's go back 2 days earlier to a different picket. This is Scientologist Dennis Clark, who's going to try to provoke me. Looks innocent, but take a look from another angle. He steps on my foot and jabs me with his elbow. Let's look at it again, slowed down. Dennis Clark checks over his shoulder to see if anyone's looking. He steps on my foot and jabs me. Moments later, he tries the same thing with a second cameraman and gets a bigger reaction.
Excuse me.
Hey, don't you fucking push me, man.
Excuse me, man. You had your elbow right out there. That was nice.
We have that from a second angle, too.
Excuse me.
Hey, don't you fucking push me, man.
Excuse me, man. You had your elbow right out there. I was bullied and grabbed by Dennis Clark. Left a little scratch on my left hand, or left arm. 2 days after that, I was again present, this time at the press conference at the Lisa McPherson Trust. There was someone lurking in the parking garage. So I went up there with another person following me and got up to the third floor and opened the door, and who did I see but Dennis Clark lurking in the parking garage and spying on the people coming and going there. You doing all right today? He suddenly got up and elbowed me as he went by and went down the stairwell. He decided to turn around and come up and accuse me of harassing him. No, not at all.
Get it out of my face. Get it out of my face now. Get it out of my face. Get it out of my face.
Excuse me.
Get the fuck
okay, it's out of your face.
Get out of my face and stop harassing me. You got it? You got it? Get out of my face.
You want to try that one more time?
Just who is Dennis Clark? Well, he's the head of the CCHR, the Citizens Commission on Human Rights. That's a Scientology front group set up to attack psychiatry. This human rights leader seems to have a lengthy history of antisocial behavior. In 1986, the author of this book, L. Ron Hubbard, Messiah or Madman, reports that Clark came to his office. When the author wasn't there, Clark pointed to the author's assistant and said, "You'll do," and punched him in the face. Let's take a look at a few more of Dennis Clark's greatest hits. Here he is shoving gum on my camera lens.
Please excuse me, I need to go by here.
You going by then, buddy?
Slapping my camera. Going after Jeff.
You want one? Here.
Officer!
And when we complain to the police, this is what happens.
Officer! He just stuck gum in my lens.
You stay with him and a camera, and I'll take the other two.
He just stuck gum in my lens. This big jerk right here.
If we see it, we can do something about it right now.
There it is. See the gum? I got it on video because I'm recording right now.
The big, tall character identified as Dennis Clark jammed me in the ribs with his elbow and knocked the picket sign out of my hand. And then they surrounded me, and before I could pick up the picket sign, it was gone. So I reported to the police that they'd stolen my picket sign, and the police said that if it was hit the ground, it was abandoned.
So, what's happened to Dennis Clark? Well, so far, nothing. Mike Croats filed charges against Clark in the parking structure incident, but mysteriously the paperwork for those charges disappeared inside the Clearwater Police Department. Also mysteriously, shortly afterwards, personal information from that police report was posted anonymously on the internet.
They posted my name, age, where I live, and other personal information, including former employers. I think in an obvious attempt to intimidate me regarding these charges that I had been wanting pressed.
To this date, no action has been taken against Dennis Clark or any of the Scientologists who have been involved in these incidents. What's really frustrating is when the police blame us for the situation. Remember the Scientologist who had to be restrained?
Hi.
Will you please not touch the camera?
You pushed it in my face, asshole.
Does the phrase, "let them come to you," make any sense to you? Do you remember somebody telling you that at the last picket?
I haven't contacted you. Oh, I know. Why you're trying to hide me.
Well, I went across the street to ask the police to please tell the Scientologists not to touch us or our cameras. Sergeant Quinlan, who's here in the center, told me, "I saw the whole thing. You were blocking the sidewalk. It's your fault." Here's another angle.
Will you please not touch the camera?
You pushed it in my face, asshole.
Does the phrase, "let them come to you," make any sense to you? Do you remember somebody telling you that at the last picket?
Here I'm gesturing for the police to come over and break this up. Of course, they don't.
The police have become less and less and less willing to protect us. And at this point, I would have to say that I really feel that the police show a prejudice against us.
I have one more piece of footage I'd like to show you. It relates to these off-duty assignment sheets the Clearwater Police signed to work for Scientology. Their assignment reads, quote, "Security for Scientology members entering and exiting buses on Watterson." Yet here in this footage, shot several blocks away from Watterson, you can see the OSA agent walking his off-duty officer to Scientology's Fort Harrison Hotel to monitor Bob Minton. The Clearwater Police Department has become Scientology's police force.
This can be celebrated as the year in which the occupation of Clearwater was completed.
When a person gets a sign knocked out of his hands, it's not abandoned property. When someone swings a hammer at somebody and with the intent to hit him, it's not no harm, no foul. When someone tries to destroy equipment by messing with the lens and cameras, it's not just tit for tat. Do the right thing while you got a chance.
Well, there you have it. I'm still getting used to all of this, so apologize for all the technical issues. I should have been putting up more of your comments and questions throughout the entire video. I didn't think about doing that. Raquel, I think, asked if Dennis Clark was still alive. No, he is not. He died. He was in horrible shape, and Scientology abandoned him. I just had some video that I captured today, along with all sorts of other videos that got captured. There was an appearance from Dennis Clark on a local public access show. And I think buried in there, they're talking about the evil psychs. And I think in that show, and I have to actually go back and watch it again, because it's worth bringing out the excerpt. I think they're talking about the fact that the evil psychs were behind Hitler and behind 9/11. And speaking of 9/11, I've been trying to find the bit of video that I captured after 9/11 happened, and there was a church service that President Bush and all the top dignitaries were attending this live mass in honor of the victims. Scientology managed to get included in the role at the bottom of the screen for mental health assistance. Call 1-800-4-TRUTH, I think was the address, or the number rather, and that was Scientology's number. And we and a number of other critics from around the country called up Fox News. This is where it was airing on Fox, and let them know this is not right. And they took that down. But it just shows how Scientology will exploit anything they possibly can. They have no morals, no scruples. I hope you've been enjoying this. Chat with us during the video, GM Flower. Yep, I should be doing more of that. I tried doing one little response here, and I think with the way my laptop is set up, it's just causing everything to shake around. So I have to figure out how I can do that. Let me try it right now. Okay. Well, I can see this is why it is tough for me to respond in text, because I have to keep checking the spelling errors constantly. So it took me forever just to put testing post up there. All right. We're going to have a lot of fascinating stuff. I've got a backlog now of videos that have been ready to put online. So I'm going to start uploading some every day, and we can go through the whole archives. I remember finding a piece of video last week with Marty Rathbun talking about what it was like. This was when Marty was out briefly. And I asked him, what was it like, when the LMT was in Clearwater? And he was talking about how Miscavige was furious about this. And every day, he and Rinder were being raked over the coals for this allowing to continue to go on. So it's fun to see the turmoil that one can create by just doing a picket. Thank you, Sharona. I really appreciate the super sticker. And let me know what more you would like to see, what types of things you'd like to see. I'm going to get you. I'm going to get you some new stuff from all sorts of places. My original things, some newscasts, some broadcasts. So Cynthia's asking what time every day. Well, I don't have a set time. Is there a time that you would recommend? I know there's SPTV has this packed schedule where there's tons of stuff being broadcast throughout the entire day. So I don't know what's good or not, but usually evenings are good for me. And the Jason Begay interview. Yeah, I do need to clean that up. And that's one that I don't want to just put through the process of turning it into 4K, because I've been pretty embarrassed by some of how that video looks. Thank God it doesn't really matter to folks. They love the Jason Begay interview, and it's probably the most popular video that I've ever put up online. But technically, we made a big blunder. My cameraman and I, when we were shooting that, always before we shot the actual footage, we would take a test shot, look at it on a laptop, and go, yeah, that's fine there with his yard in the back there. That'll be nice. we didn't realize that almost as soon as we started filming, the light changed so that it was just bleaching him out. So I'm horribly embarrassed by that. And then I had the close-up video, which is really close-up, but I relied on that a lot because I was so embarrassed by the wide shot. So I want to pull that into my editing software now and see if I can somehow fix that footage before converting it to 4K. I appreciate you coming around here and spending some time with me. I'll continue to go through here, and one thing that I just captured was a whole bunch of stuff from Cult Info Conference. That was the first thing that I attended when Bob Minton invited me out to Connecticut to be part of this. And Bob put a camera in my hand and just let me film everything behind the scenes. And it's interesting to see the parallels between that time when all of these folks you'll see in that video were people on alt religion Scientology. So everyone knew who Arnie Lerma was, who all these different people. And it's very similar to the way it is now, except now it's on a much bigger scale where you've got this family of YouTubers out there and TikTokers who have done this amazing job of picking up the mantle and taking it much, much further than we ever could. Reaching that audience out there, it's pretty damn amazing. So I don't know if there's anything else that we need to talk about tonight. There was one thing that came to mind, and I forget what it is now. So that's always going to be the case. I'll always forget something. But I definitely appreciate you folks showing up. Click that like and subscribe. And we'll keep these coming. Thanks so much. You folks have a good night.